Hello, friend. Now that we have configured the XGM schema as well as the field group, let us talk about how to identify the users. So the way we'll identify the users is in the form of an identity map. So the identity map contains a single map field where each property represents a distinct identity namespace. By namespaces, we refer to the property name, which is case sensitive and can be an email ID or ECID, which uniquely identifies what the user is or who the user is. So each namespace would have an array of entity objects. Each object would contain a specific ID. For example, an email based namespace would have a unique identity, let's say John Doe at the rate abc.com. You might also come across a term known as authenticated state. So the authenticated state can be when a user goes to a site and we do not know who that user is. It might be ambiguous. The moment the user logs in, it will be a logged in user or authenticated user. When it logs out, it will be a logged out user. So let us go ahead and see how to create this identity map or how to configure it. So here to create an identity map, you go to field groups, type in identity. The moment you type in identity map comes up. Once you select it and add to the field group to your schema. Once you've done this, you can click on save. When you click on create an identity namespace, this dialog box comes up. It is here where you have to put in the identity name, that's the display name, and the identity symbol. So in this case, the identity name, I can put in a customized name and an identity symbol. There are four options which you get out here: cookie ID, individual cross device ID, hardware device ID, and non-people identifiers. We need to select the individual cross device ID in this case and click on create. Once we do that, and once the identity has been created with that particular identity name and identity symbol, the identity will be showing in the identity section, the identity name and the identity symbol.
All right, today we're going to solve a puzzle. It's a puzzle that companies are trying to figure out every single day: who you are across all of your devices. We're going to explore how they connect all those dots to see a single, unified picture of you, and how that picture gets built, piece by tiny piece. So, have you ever wondered how this happens? You know, you're browsing for a pair of shoes on your laptop. Then you add them to your cart on your phone, and then, like magic, you get a discount for them when you walk into the actual store. How do they connect all of those moments? Well, you guessed it. It's not actually magic. It's a really sophisticated process of solving what we call the digital identity puzzle. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see exactly how every single one of those pieces clicks into place. Okay, let's start with the core problem here. For most businesses, your data doesn't look like a complete portrait. It's more like a bunch of disconnected fragments, scattered all over the place. Just think about it for a second. Your laptop has one ID, your phone has another, and your loyalty card has a completely different one. Every time you interact, you create a separate piece of data. Without some way to connect them, the company doesn't see one person, they see three totally separate, anonymous actions. So if the goal is to connect all these fragments, where do you possibly start? Well, the journey begins with the very first piece of the puzzle: tracking you before you've ever logged in or given them any personal info at all. And that first puzzle piece is something called the Experience Cloud ID, or ECID for short. The easiest way to think of it is like the first digital breadcrumb that every single visitor leaves on a website or an app. It's what lets a system recognize a browser and say, "Hey, I've seen you before." Now, there are a couple of ways to create that initial ECID. The standard way uses a cookie that's set by the website's code itself. But there's a more durable, kind of heavy-duty method using something called a first-party device ID, or FPID. Basically, it's just a stronger type of cookie that acts as a more reliable seed to generate that ECID. The key takeaway here is that it's just a better way to create the same anonymous ID. And this is absolutely crucial to remember. The source material is super clear on this. The FPID's only job is to help create a stable ECID for an anonymous user. It has nothing to do with identifying you after you've logged in. That's a whole different piece of the puzzle. Okay, so that covers the anonymous side of things. But what happens at that magic moment when you, the visitor, decide to log in or sign up for something? How does the system connect all your anonymous history to your new, known identity? The second a user identifies themselves, a really clear process kicks off. First, the system categorizes the ID. Is this a CRM ID or a loyalty number? Then it grabs the unique value, something like user123. After that, it officially flags you as authenticated, and this is the big one. It designates this known ID as the primary, the main identifier for you as a person. And in that one instant, the anonymous ECID from before gets a real name attached to it. So we've got our anonymous IDs and we've got our authenticated IDs. But how do they actually get stuck together? This next part, this is the glue that holds the entire puzzle together. The key concept here is the identity namespace. It's really just a label that categorizes what kind of ID we're looking at. The logic is simple but powerful. If two different records have the exact same ID value, say user123, and they share the same namespace, like CRM ID, then the system knows for sure that they belong to the same person. And here are some perfect examples. A namespace could be for a customer account, see the little person icon, or for a loyalty program, like the star. Another could be just for that anonymous website visitor ID. This simple labeling system is really the secret sauce that lets the platform confidently connect all these different data points. Okay, so for every single interaction, every page view, every click, every purchase, all of these different labeled IDs are gathered up and put into a neat little digital container. And this container has a name. It's called an identity map. So if we were to peek inside that container, we could actually see the magic happening. Check this out. Notice the two entries. The original anonymous ECID is now linked directly to the authenticated CRM ID, user123. This system now has permanent technical proof that this specific device belongs to this specific customer. This right here is the link that connects everything. And now we get to the big payoff. With all these pieces we've collected, the anonymous IDs, the authenticated IDs, and the maps that link them all together, we can finally solve the puzzle and build that complete picture. Let's just quickly remember where we started. Before all this identity mapping, the company saw three completely separate events: an anonymous visit on the website, a known login on an app, and an in-store purchase tied to a loyalty card. As far as the data was concerned, these were three different people. But after the identity service does its job, the picture becomes crystal clear. The system now knows that the anonymous website visitor is the same person as the app user, user123, who is also the same person with that loyalty ID. All those scattered fragments are finally pieced together into one single unified profile. So why does all this even matter? Because this 360-degree view is what powers those seamless, personal experiences we talked about at the very beginning. It's what lets a brand understand your entire journey and interact with you as a single person, not just a collection of random, disconnected data points. So the digital identity puzzle is solved. We've seen how companies can build this stunningly detailed view of who we are. And that leaves us with one final and pretty important question to think about. As this technology gets better and better, where do you draw the line between an experience that feels genuinely helpful and one that feels like it knows just a little too much?